want you to stop for a second and actually think about this question. What is already in your hands, not what you're waiting to receive, not what you're going to pursue when the timing is better, or when you've paid off more debt, or when the kids are older, or when you finally feel ready. What do you have right now? The knowledge, the space, the time, the skill, the relationship, the gift that you use every single week without ever recognizing that it has genuine market value. Because I have had this conversation with a lot of people who love God deeply, who serve faithfully, who tithe consistently, who pray for financial breakthrough with real sincerity. And almost without exception, what I find is not a lack of resource. It is a lack of perception about the resource that is already there. There is a moment in Exodus that almost nobody reads as a business lesson. Moses is standing in front of God, completely convinced that he doesn't have what it takes to do what he's been called to do. And God interrupts him with a question so simple, it almost sounds like it isn't worth asking. What is that in your hand? A staff. The most ordinary object a shepherd in the desert could possibly be holding. And it was exactly with that, with the thing he was already holding, that God split the sea, brought down 10 plagues, and led 2 million people to freedom. Moses didn't have a resource problem. He had a perception problem. He couldn't see what the thing in his hand was actually capable of. And that is the conversation I want to have with you today. Because the most common financial problem I see in the Christian community is not what most people think it is. It's not debt, though debt is real. It's not income, though income matters. It's not opportunity, though opportunities are everywhere. It is the fundamental inability to see what God has already placed in your hands as having the potential He designed it to have. Today, I'm going to show you 9 income sources that God has almost certainly already placed in your hands that you have not yet seen for what they are. Each one is grounded in Scripture. Each one is actionable right now. Each one can be started without quitting your job, without large capital, and without waiting for the moment to feel perfect. Stay until the very end, because the 9th source is the one that surprises people the most, and it is also the one that the most people already have and have never once thought to monetize. Before the 9 sources, one principle that frames everything. Luke 16:10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. This is not just a character verse, it is an economic progression statement. The biblical pattern is not receive much, then prove you can handle it. It is be faithful with what exists right now, and the much gets entrusted to you as a result. That reverses the logic most of us were operating from. The question is not, what would I do differently if I had more? The question is, what am I doing with what I already have? And the honest answer to that second question is where every real financial transformation begins. Write in the comments right now, Lord, show me what's already in my hands, not as a formula, as an actual prayer, because the perception shift we're talking about today is something that comes from the Spirit, not just from a YouTube video. The first source, the technical knowledge from your current job, 36.4. Be assured that my words are not false. One who has perfect knowledge is with you. Here is an irony that plays out in millions of American households every single week. You go to work. You apply your expertise. You solve problems, manage systems, navigate processes, execute with a level of competence that took you years to develop. And at the end of the pay period, all of that accumulated expertise generates exactly one economic transaction, a paycheck from one employer. The knowledge belongs to you, but it has only one buyer. And the uncomfortable reality is that the knowledge you deliver exclusively to one employer every week has genuine market value that you have never tested anywhere else. The corporate accountant who knows tax strategy inside and out could serve small business clients on the side. The software developer who builds internal tools all day could freelance on nights and weekends. The HR manager who writes job descriptions and navigates employment law could consult for startups that can't afford a full-time HR function. The nurse who manages patient care could provide private consulting, health advocacy, or home care services independently. According to Upwork's 2024 Freelance Forward report, more than 64 million Americans performed freelance work in the past 12 months. And the fastest growing segment was not young people entering the workforce. It was experienced professionals between 35 and 54 who took skills they had developed in their primary career and created a parallel income stream from them. In Seattle, an IT project manager named Brian had been running complex software implementations for a Fortune 500 company for 9 years. He knew the exact pain points that mid-sized companies hit when they tried to implement new systems without proper project management structure. He started taking on 2 to 3 consulting clients per year, companies in the $5 to $20 million revenue range that needed professional project management for a specific implementation but couldn't justify a full-time hire. He charged $150 per hour, worked 12 to 15 hours per month per client. In his first year of consulting on the side, he generated over $40,000 in supplemental income without changing his day job, without changing his schedule in any significant way, and without building any infrastructure beyond a simple website and a contract template. The instruction map. First step. Write down every skill and knowledge area your current job requires that someone outside your company would pay to access. No filter on this list. Write everything: soft skills, technical skills, institutional knowledge, process expertise, relationship capital. Second step, identify the clients who need that expertise but can't access it through normal channels. Smaller companies that can't afford a full-time version of what you do. Startups that need experienced guidance without the overhead. Individuals who need the professional knowledge you apply to institutions. Third step, define one specific service offering, not I consult on everything in my field, but I solve this specific, named problem for this specific type of client. Specificity is what makes you findable and referable. Fourth step, price at what the market bears, not what feels comfortable. Research what independent consultants in your domain charge. Then charge that, not a discount version of it because you feel like you need to earn the rate before you charge it. Fifth step, start with 2 to 3 clients and prove the model before scaling. Don't build a website, form an LLC, print business cards, and redesign your LinkedIn profile before you have a single paying client. Get one client first. Everything else follows. The second source, the physical space. You already own or control. Thus, Pyro Farter number 31 on 16. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Real estate income has existed since the first person owned more land than they needed, and another person was willing to pay to use it. But here is what most people miss about this principle in the context of their actual lives. You do not need to own an investment property to start generating real estate income. You need to inventory what you already have. The extra bedroom that sits empty because the kids moved out. The detached garage that stores Christmas decorations 11 months of the year. The basement that functions as a junk repository. The parking space in a downtown apartment complex that you pay for but rarely use. The vacation home that sits vacant 40 weeks a year while you cover the carrying costs. The piece of land you inherited that hasn't been evaluated in 15 years. Every one of those is a potential income-producing asset that you are currently funding but not monetizing. Neighbor.com, the storage rental marketplace, allows people to rent out garage space, basements, and driveways to people who need storage in their area. The average host on Neighbor earns between $150 and $450 per month per parking or storage space. Airbnb hosts with a spare bedroom in their primary residence earn an average of $924 per month, according to Airbnb's own host data, while continuing to live in the same home. ADUs, accessory dwelling units, have become one of the fastest-growing housing solutions in the country, particularly on the West Coast. In Los Angeles, San Diego, and the Bay Area, a permitted ADU on an existing residential property can generate between $1,500 and $3,500 in monthly rental income. In Phoenix, a retired couple named Carol and Jim had a casita on their property, a separate guest unit they had built years ago for when family visited. Family visited maybe 3 weeks a year. The unit sat empty, the other 49. A neighbor suggested they try Airbnb. They were hesitant. They finally listed it. In their first year, that casita generated over $22,000 in income. It changed how they thought about retirement. The instruction map. First step, walk through your life and your property with genuinely new eyes. Every space you are paying for or maintaining that is not generating income is an asset you are funding without a return. Second step, match each unused space to the market that would pay for it. Short-term travelers for spare rooms, remote workers who need storage for equipment, commuters who need parking near transit, people who need vehicle storage or boat storage or seasonal item storage. Third step, research the real market rate for each space in your specific market. AirDNA for short-term rental income, Neighbor.com for storage and parking comps, Zillow Rental Manager for long-term lease market data. Fourth step, start with a trial run before committing to any significant improvement investment. List the space as is. Get your first booking or tenant. Learn from the experience. Use the income the space generates to fund whatever improvements the market tells you are worth making. Fifth step, when your first space is consistently generating, use that income toward acquiring or improving the next one. Every real estate portfolio that started from zero began with someone monetizing the space they already had before buying the space they wanted. The third source, the network you've built and the trust that lives in it. Proverbs 18:16. A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great. There is a category of income that most people have never thought about as income at all. It is the economic value of your reputation within your community, your name. The fact that when you recommend something, people act on it. The trust that you have accumulated over years of showing up, being honest, delivering on what you said you would deliver. That trust has quantifiable market value, and there are legitimate, straightforward ways to convert it into income without compromising the integrity that built it. Every major financial services company, every software platform, every e-commerce brand, every online education provider has an affiliate or referral program. When someone buys a product or service based on your genuine recommendation through your unique referral link, you earn a commission. This is not multi-level marketing. This is not a pyramid scheme. This is the oldest form of commerce in human history. A trusted person recommending something they genuinely believe in, and being compensated for the introduction. Real estate agents have always earned commissions for connecting buyers and sellers. Insurance agents have always earned commissions for connecting clients with coverage. Financial advisors have always earned fees for connecting investors with vehicles. The digital economy has simply made this model accessible to anyone with an established trust relationship in any community. The person in their church community who everyone asks about financial products could become a licensed insurance agent or investment advisor and serve that community professionally. The fitness enthusiast who all their friends consult before buying workout equipment could partner with quality fitness brands and earn commissions on honest reviews. The foodie whose restaurant recommendations are always trusted could partner with dining apps or culinary brands. In Austin, a woman named Priya had been the go-to resource in her professional network for software tool recommendations. She was known for evaluating tools rigorously and only recommending things she actually used and believed in. She formalized this by joining affiliate programs for the 3 SaaS products she recommended most frequently: a project management tool, a CRM, and an email marketing platform. She didn't change what she was doing. She simply started including her affiliate links in the recommendations she was already making. In her first year, those 3 affiliate relationships generated over $19,000 in commissions from conversations she was having anyway. The instruction map. First step: identify the domains where people in your network consistently seek your advice or recommendations. The more specific, the better. Finance is too broad. Choosing the right small business accounting software is a domain where your recommendation carries weight and where affiliate or referral programs exist. Second step: research legitimate affiliate and referral programs in those specific domains. Look for programs with products you genuinely use and believe in, transparent commission structures, and companies with real reputations to protect. Third step: only recommend what you have personal experience with and would endorse without a commission. The moment your recommendations are perceived as financially motivated rather than genuinely helpful, the trust that makes the model work disappears. The trust is the asset, protected above the commission. Fourth step: be transparent about affiliate relationships with your audience or network. This is both ethically correct and, paradoxically, trust-building. People appreciate honesty about how you earn. It reinforces rather than undermines the credibility of your recommendations. Fifth step: build toward recurring commission structures wherever possible. A software subscription that pays you a commission every month for as long as your referral remains a customer is worth exponentially more than a one-time purchase commission. Pursue recurring revenue over single transactions. The fourth source: the manual skill that lives in your hands. Exodus 31:3. And I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all kinds of skills. God filled Bezalel with the Holy Spirit specifically for manual, technical, skilled work. Not for preaching, not for prophecy, for the skilled fabrication of physical things. This matters theologically more than most people realize. It means that the gift of working excellently with your hands, crafting, building, repairing, creating, is a Spirit-given capacity. It is not a lesser gift. It is not what you do when you can't do real ministry. It is a divine endowment with a specific purpose. And here in the United States, that endowment has significant market value that is being dramatically underpriced by the people who possess it. The skilled trades in America are in genuine crisis, not because the work isn't valued, but because an entire generation was told the trades weren't worth pursuing. The result is a massive and growing deficit of skilled tradespeople, artisans, crafters, and repair specialists that has created extraordinary market conditions for the people who chose differently. But beyond the licensed trades, there is a parallel market that has exploded over the past 5 years, the maker economy. Etsy alone hosts over 7 million active sellers, generating a combined $13.2 billion annual gross merchandise sales, according to the company's 2024 annual report. The fastest-growing categories are handmade goods, custom items, vintage products, and one-of-a-kind creations that the mass market cannot replicate. Woodworking, ceramics, leathercraft, hand-dyed textiles, custom metalwork, stained glass, candle making, soap making, illustration and hand-lettered artwork, embroidery, macrame. Every one of these is a potential income-generating business for someone with the skill and the willingness to bring it to market. In Asheville, a woman named Sandra had been making hand-thrown pottery as a hobby for 12 years. She sold occasionally at local craft fairs, but had never treated it as a business. Her daughter convinced her to open an Etsy shop. In her first year, she generated over $31,000 in sales, while still working her part-time administrative job. In her second year, she left the administrative job. She didn't change what her hands knew how to do. She changed where she made it available. The instruction map. First step. Identify every manual skill you possess that produces something someone else would want, either a service rendered or a product created. Be generous with this list. The skill that feels ordinary to you because you've had it for years may be genuinely exceptional to someone who doesn't have it. Second step. Assess whether your skill serves a product market, a service market, or both. Products can be sold at scale online. Services are typically local and relationship-driven. Many skilled people can serve both markets simultaneously. Third step. If you're entering the product market, research the platforms before choosing one. Etsy for handmade goods and vintage. Amazon, handmade for handcrafted items with Amazon's customer base. Your own website for maximum margin control. Local farmers markets and craft fairs for community relationship building. Fourth step, price for what the craft is worth, not for what feels safe. The most common pricing mistake in the maker economy is underpricing because the maker doesn't want to seem presumptuous. Research comparable items in your category. Price at the market rate. Your skill took years to develop. The price should reflect that. Fifth step, build the story around the work. In the maker economy, people are not just buying a product. They are buying the story of who made it and why. The person who knows how to communicate that story through their product descriptions, their photographs, their social media presence sells more at better margins than the technically superior craftsperson who cannot tell their story. The fifth source, the story of what you have already survived, Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. All things. Not the good things only. All things. The business failure, the divorce, the health crisis, the financial collapse, the addiction you fought through, the grief that changed how you see everything, the career implosion that forced a rebuild, the years of depression that nobody knew about. God works all of it toward good. And here is a specific way that good can manifest economically. Your experience of having been through something hard, and having come out the other side with knowledge you didn't have going in, is genuinely valuable to people who are currently in the place you were. The person who filed bankruptcy and rebuilt is more valuable as a financial advisor to someone facing bankruptcy than any consultant who has only ever read about the process. The person who survived a cancer diagnosis and navigated the insurance, the treatment decisions, the advocacy required in the American healthcare system is more valuable as a patient advocate than any textbook. The person who built a business from nothing, made every mistake, and kept going anyway, is more valuable as a mentor to early-stage entrepreneurs than any MBA case study. This is not selling pain. This is not trauma tourism. This is the recognition that suffering, when processed and integrated, produces a specific form of wisdom that has market value and that helps real people in ways that theoretical knowledge simply cannot. In Chicago, a man named David had gone through a brutal divorce that cost him nearly everything financially. He spent 3 years rebuilding, learning the legal process, the financial strategies, the emotional and practical frameworks that allowed him to stabilize and eventually thrive. A friend going through the same thing asked David to walk him through what he had learned. David helped. The friend credited him with cutting years off the process and tens of thousands of dollars off the cost. Word spread in his network. 4 more people came to him. David eventually formalized this as a divorce recovery coaching practice, not legal advice, not therapy, but the practical, financial, and personal rebuilding guidance that comes from having actually done it. He built a business from the hardest experience of his life. The instruction map: first step, identify the hardest thing you have already survived, not what you are still in, what you have actually come through and have genuine perspective on. Second step, map the knowledge you accumulated in that process that people going through the same thing are currently looking for and not finding. The gap between what you had to figure out yourself and what was readily available, that gap is your differentiable value. Third step, choose the format that best matches your strengths: one-on-one coaching or consulting, a course, a book or guide, a podcast, a community or support group. You do not have to use the most sophisticated format. You need to use the one you will actually sustain. Fourth step, don't disqualify yourself because you don't have credentials behind your name. The coaching and peer support industry is full of legitimate practitioners who are credentialed by their lived experience, not by an academic program. Be clear about what you are, and equally clear about what you are not, and serve from the actual expertise you have. Fifth step, let the story lead. People don't hire coaches and consultants because of their credentials. They hire them because they believe the person understands what they're going through. Your story, told honestly, is the most powerful marketing tool you have. The sixth source, the spiritual gift you've been deploying for free. Peter 4:10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Faithful stewards. That word in Greek, oikonomos, is the word we get economics from. A faithful oikonomos is someone who manages what they have been given in a way that produces more than was originally entrusted to them. That is the biblical definition of stewardship applied to spiritual gifts. Not preserving the gift carefully in a safe context where it cannot be diminished. Deploying it in ways that multiply what was originally given. The gift of exhortation, the capacity to speak words that build people up, that call out what is possible in someone, that reframe a situation in a way that unlocks forward motion, is the exact competency that the coaching and consulting industry is built on. The gift of teaching, the ability to make complex things clear, to hold a room's attention while information transfers, to design a learning experience that actually results in changed behavior. is the exact competency that the education and training industry is built on. The gift of administration, the ability to create order from chaos, to build systems that function reliably, to organize people and resources toward a goal, is the exact competency that operations consulting and business management is built on. The gift of wisdom, the capacity to see the right path in complex situations, to discern what others miss, to provide the kind of perspective that changes the trajectory of a decision, is the exact competency that advisory and mentoring work is built on. These gifts are not just for Sunday mornings. They are economic capacities that God embedded in specific people for purposes that exceed the four walls of any church building. In Dallas, a woman named Michelle had been described as having a gift for counsel by every pastor she had ever served under. People sought her out for advice on marriages, parenting, career decisions, life transitions. She had been doing this informally for 20 years. A mentor challenged her to pursue professional certification as a life coach. She resisted initially. She didn't believe people would pay for what she had always done for free. They did. Immediately. Within 18 months, she had a full practice, a 6-month wait list, and a group coaching program that allowed her to scale her reach beyond what one-on-one work permitted. The gift she had been deploying for free in the hallways of churches for 2 decades was, it turned out, also the foundation of a thriving business. The instruction map. First step, identify the gift that people seek you out for outside of formal church settings. Not the role you fill on Sunday. The capacity that people pursue in you on Tuesday afternoon when they need help. Second step, research the professional context in which that gift is already deployed commercially. Coaching, consulting, facilitation, training, curriculum development, organizational development, speaking. Know the professional landscape in which your gift has economic expression. Third step, get the credential if the market values it. Not because you need permission from a credential to deploy your gift, but because in many professional contexts, a recognized credential reduces sales friction and allows you to charge rates that reflect the full value of what you deliver. Fourth step, start charging immediately, even if the initial rate is modest. The transition from free to paid is the hardest step, but it is also the step that filters casual requests from genuine clients, and it is the step that establishes the professional posture that everything else is built on. Fifth step, set clear scope and ethical limits. Know what falls within your competence and what does not. The counselor who knows when to refer to a licensed therapist. The advisor who knows when to involve an attorney. That clarity is what protects both the practitioner and the client, and what makes the practice sustainable long-term. The seventh source, the time that's disappearing into your phone. Ephesians 5:16, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Redeeming, buying back, recovering the value of something that is being spent without a return. The American time use. Survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that the average American spends between 3 and 5 hours per day on leisure screen time, social media, streaming, passive browsing, outside of work hours. At 4 hours per day, that is 28 hours per week. 28 hours per week is the equivalent of a full part-time job. What would your financial life look like if that part-time job was building something that produced income instead of consuming it? I am not saying rest and leisure are wrong. Recovery is a biblical principle. Sabbath is a command, not a suggestion. But there is a meaningful difference between intentional rest that restores, and passive consumption that simply passes time. And for most people, the majority of those 28 hours falls in the second category. In Columbus, a man named Ray worked as a warehouse supervisor, putting in 45 hours per week. He had been telling himself for 3 years that he wanted to start a side business in woodworking, custom cutting boards, small furniture pieces, home decor items. He never had time. One week, he actually tracked where his time went. The weeknight hours he thought he didn't have added up to about 19 hours, mostly spent watching sports and scrolling social media. He started redirecting 90 minutes per evening to his woodworking hobby. Not the full 19. 90 minutes. In 8 months, he had opened an Etsy shop. In his first full year on Etsy, he sold over $47,000 worth of custom woodworking. He did not get more time. He used the time he already had differently. The instruction map. First step. Track your actual time for 1 week. Every hour, honestly. Not the idealized version of how you spend your time, what you actually do. This single exercise has more financial impact than almost any other action you can take, because it makes invisible choices visible. Second step. Identify the discretionary time that exists, but is being used without intentionality. Not your sleep, not your family time, not your genuine recovery time. The time that is simply being absorbed without a clear decision to spend it that way. Third step, choose one skill to develop with a targeted block of that time. One that can generate income within 6 months with consistent effort. Video editing, freelance writing, graphic design, bookkeeping, web development, virtual assistants, voiceover work. Fourth step, use freelance platforms to access the market once you reach a basic competency threshold. Upwork, Fiverr, Contra, TopTal. The market for skilled remote work is genuinely global and genuinely accessible to someone with a real skill and a professional online presence. Fifth step, reinvest a portion of initial earnings into the skill itself. Every dollar invested in sharpening the specific skill that generates your freelance income returns multiplied as the capacity to deliver better work and command better rates. The eighth source, the specific access you have that others don't access. 1614. One of those listening was a woman from the city of Thyatira named Lydia, a dealer in a purple cloth. She was a worshiper of God. Lydia was a merchant. She had specific access to the purple cloth trade, to the networks and relationships within that trade, to the buyers and suppliers who operated in that market that other people didn't have. And that specific access was her competitive advantage. Here is the economic principle. Wherever you have access to a market, a network, a community, or a resource that others don't easily have, that access has value that can be converted into income. The person who works in healthcare and understands the system from the inside has access that every patient who doesn't understand that system would pay for guidance to navigate. The person who has spent 20 years in a specific industry and has relationships with the decision makers in that space has access that a startup trying to break into that industry would pay significant fees to leverage. The person who is a trusted member of a specific faith community has access to a trust network that marketers spend millions trying to penetrate, and that access can be leveraged ethically through the right affiliate relationships, referral programs, or community-specific services. The person who lives in a location with specific natural, cultural, or tourism assets has access to visitors and demand that merchants in other locations cannot serve. In Portland, a man named Kevin had been a sommelier at high-end restaurants for 18 years. He knew wine at a level that almost nobody outside the professional wine industry could match. He started offering private wine education experiences, small group tastings in his home, corporate team-building events, private event curation for people who wanted to develop their wine knowledge and palate. He charged $350 per person for group events and $500 per hour for private consultations. In his first year operating this as a formal side business, he earned over $60,000 while still working his primary sommelier position. Lydia had access to purple cloth. Kevin had access to wine expertise and the credibility that came with it. The instruction map. First step. Map the domains in which you have insider access, specialized knowledge, trusted relationships, or proximity that others don't have. Be specific, not "I know a lot about business." I have trusted relationships with purchasing managers at 30 mid-sized manufacturing companies in the Southeast. Second step, identify what specific need exists within the market that your access allows you to serve in ways that outsiders cannot easily replicate. Third step, design the simplest possible service that converts your access into value for someone else. You don't need to build a platform. You don't need to create a product. Sometimes the first step is simply offering an introduction, a consultation, or a referral, and being properly compensated for it. Fourth step, price based on the value created, not on the time spent. Access-based businesses are not paid by the hour. They are paid by the door they can open. A 2-hour consultation that saves a client $100,000 in mistakes is worth a great deal more than $200. Fifth step, formalize the relationships that matter most. The supplier who gives you preferential pricing, the buyer who takes your calls when they don't take others, the community that trusts your recommendation. These relationships are the infrastructure of the business. Treat them with the same intentionality you would give to any other critical asset. The ninth source, the ability to create and package. What you already know, Habakkuk 2:2. Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. Write it down. Make it clear. Make it accessible. Make it runnable. That instruction was given in the 7th century BC. It is the perfect description of what content creators and digital product builders do in the 21st century. When you create something, a video, a course, a guide, a podcast, a template, a framework that other people can consume and benefit from without your real-time presence, you have built an asset, not a job, not a service that requires your time to deliver. An asset. An asset that generates income while you're sleeping, while you're on a family vacation, while you're sitting in the doctor's office, while you're at your kid's soccer game. And I want to challenge something that I hear constantly from people who should be doing this and aren't. I don't have anything worth teaching. Let me be direct about that. You have been operating in a domain, professional, personal, experiential, for years. You have figured things out that people just entering that domain haven't figured out yet. You have made mistakes that cost you time and money that you could help other people avoid. You have developed frameworks, approaches, and mental models that you apply without even thinking about them because they're so internalized. That is content. That is a course. That is a book. That is a guide. That is a podcast. And someone right now and today, while you're watching this video, is searching the internet for exactly what you know and not finding a version of it that speaks their language, matches their context, and comes from someone who has genuinely done it. The online education market in the United States is projected to reach $166 billion by 2026, according to Statista. Substack has over 2 million paid subscribers across its creator newsletters. Kajabi creators have collectively earned over $6 billion in revenue from their digital products and courses. These are not numbers generated by celebrities and influencers. The majority of that revenue is generated by people with real expertise in specific domains who made the decision to create something and put it out into the world. In Nashville, a woman named Jennifer had been a pediatric occupational therapist for 16 years. She had watched parents struggle year after year to find practical, accessible information about sensory processing challenges in children, information that was common knowledge in her professional world, but completely inaccessible to the parents who needed it most. She started a YouTube channel, basic production, 1 video per week, plain language explanations of what sensory processing is, how to identify challenges, and what parents can do at home without a therapist in the room. In 14 months, she had 81,000 subscribers. She launched a digital course, a 12-week parent training program, for $397. In its first 90 days, 312 families enrolled. $123,864. From knowledge she had been applying in clinical settings for 16 years and had never packaged for the people who needed it most. Habakkuk said, "Write the vision. Make it plain. Let the herald run." Jennifer wrote the vision. 81,000 people are running with it. The instruction map: first step, identify the specific knowledge, experience, or expertise you have that a defined audience is actively searching for and not finding in a form that fully serves them. The more specific the intersection of your expertise and their need, the faster the traction. Second step, choose one format and one platform and commit to it for 6 months before evaluating results or expanding. The most common failure mode in digital content is spreading across 5 platforms at launch quality on none of them. Third step, publish before you feel ready. The gap between what you know and what you're publishing will always feel enormous to you because you know what you don't know. The audience doesn't know what you don't know. They only know what you've taught them. Start creating now. Fourth step, build toward a monetized product from the first piece of content you publish. Know what you are eventually going to sell. Let every piece of free content demonstrate the value of the paid product you are building toward. Fifth step, measure what matters and ignore what doesn't. Subscriber count is a vanity metric until it is large enough to generate meaningful ad revenue. What matters in the early stages are the right people watching, are they engaging, and are the ones who engage converting when you make an offer. Optimize for those 3 things. The vision written on tablets runs. It runs while you sleep, while you travel, while your family is at the dinner table. Write it down. 9 income sources, 9 things God has almost certainly already placed in your hands. The technical knowledge from your current job, the physical space you own or control, the network and the trust you have built, the manual skill in your hands, the story of what you have survived, the spiritual gift you have been deploying for free, the time you have been spending without return, the specific access that is uniquely yours, the ability to create and package what you know. None of them require you to quit your job. None of them require startup capital you don't have. None of them require you to become someone you are not or to pretend you have expertise you haven't earned. They require one thing. The same thing God asked Moses when Moses was convinced he had nothing. What is that in your hand? Answer that question honestly. Then decide to use it. Luke 16:10 still stands. Whoever is faithful in very little will be trusted with much. The much starts with the little that is already there, and it is already there. If this video landed for you, Share it with someone who has been praying for a breakthrough, but hasn't yet considered that the breakthrough might already be in their hands. Let me pray with you before you go. Father, I thank you for every person who stayed until the end of this. Thank you that you did not send Moses into his calling empty-handed. Thank you that you did not fill Solomon with wisdom before he had already placed the raw materials for wisdom in Solomon's experience. Thank you that you have not sent any of us into our lives without already equipping us with what we need to fulfill the purpose you designed us for. Open the eyes of everyone watching this to see what is already in their hands. The skill they've normalized because they've had it so long, the knowledge they give away for free because they don't believe anyone would pay for what comes naturally to them, the space they've overlooked because it's always been there, the story they've been reluctant to share because the pain still feels like the loudest part of it. Let them see the asset. Let them see the capacity. Let them see the gift for what it actually is. And then let them take one step this week. Not a plan, not a strategy session. One step. Because you are the God who multiplied loaves and fish. You are the God who turned a shepherd's staff into the instrument of national liberation. You are the God who can take whatever is in our hands right now, however ordinary it looks, and make it produce more than we imagined possible. In Jesus' name, amen. Write in the comments, what is in my hands is enough to begin. Because it is, and you've always known it was. You just needed someone to say it.